There's a voice deep inside every dad calling him to lead. Society, vices, inner demons, negative thoughts try to dampen and drown out that voice, but it never goes away. Your wife feels it, your children feel it, and your heart and soul feel it too. It's the voice that starts off as a whisper, but then becomes a calling to be the tip of the spear for your family, a calling to play all out and lead by example for your children, a calling to build a legacy that will go on for generations, a calling to be the warrior dad you were born to be. Dads, our children need us now more than ever to be that beacon of hope, courage, positivity, and strength. It's time to rise as warrior dads together as a brotherhood. If you felt that twinge in your soul, it's time for the Warrior Dad Experience. Welcome to the show. I am extremely excited to have special guest Dre Baldwin on the show. Dre, welcome to the show.
Jeff, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get right to it. I know we were just talking behind the scenes. Dad game. You're a dad. How old is your son? How is that going? I know you're a newer dad to the dad game.
Yeah. So just one son, 20 months of age. He'll be maybe 21 in a couple of weeks from when we're recording this, and only one child. And that's how it's going so far. Has been for me not that much different. I mean, of course, you lose some sleep, of course, but being a dad, I'm not losing as much sleep as mom is losing. So she's losing a lot more sleep than I am. But other than that, I've been finding ways to kind of fit him into my process. I'm walking him without the stroller now. So, but other than that, I still do a lot of my normal routine stuff. Just need a little bit of extra energy. I think you need those first few years. That's at least what I heard, and that's pretty much how it's been.
Gotcha. Okay, awesome. So Dre, would love to hear a little bit of your background on, where you came from, where you're at now. I know we're going to dive into mindset is the foundation. I love that topic, man. So many different threads we can pull there. But give the audience just a little bit of background on, where you came from, work on your game, all the things you're doing now, and then we'll dive into mindset.
I come from the city of Philadelphia, now based in South Florida. Always played sports growing up. Got around to basketball about age 14, which is pretty late. Only played a 1 year high school, didn't really play. Walked on to play Division III college ball. Then basically hustled my way into playing pro ball. I made a 9-year career out of it. Started putting content online, specifically through YouTube when I started my basketball career, which is in 2005. So this is before this was a normal thing to do. So I kind of built my name up on the internet and got more people who knew me online than even knew me from being a professional athlete. And then eventually extracted the mindset pieces that work in sports, start giving those to the athletes. People who didn't play sports started hearing those and saying, hey, this stuff applies to us as well. So that's what told me, hey, I can take this message off the court. So when I stopped playing ball in 2015, I already had an audience. I already had a framework. I already knew I was going to push this whole work on your game concept. And that's pretty much what I've been doing full time for the last almost 10 years since I stopped playing ball. Gotcha.
So what is that work on your game concept? Would love to hear kind of what that is and what that entails.
Well, it's based in 4 pillars of what we do, which is mindset, strategy, systems, and accountability. But we started with just the mindset. It started with just the mindset piece. So each one of these pieces has subtopics. So the mindset is the foundation of everything. It's kind of like the underneath the high-rise tower. So you see a 60-story high-rise. The foundation is the part you never see, but it's the part that makes the rest of the building stand up. And that's the mindset for us. And that's based in 4 specific things: discipline, confidence, mental toughness, and personal initiative. So that is what I first initially was given to the basketball players and teaching it to them and helping them understand how they could utilize that stuff on the basketball court. And they appreciated it and benefited from it because I had used it myself. And that's also the message that the people who did not play sports, Jeff, they started hearing that and saying, well, hey, I don't play basketball, but this stuff applies in the office the same way that it applies apparently on the court. And that's how I knew that this message had a lot of potential to spread much further than just sports.
Okay. So I'm a dad listening to the show.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about mindset. How do you define mindset, right? What do you kind of give somebody off brand new, maybe found you online through YouTube and they're like, okay, what is this concept of mindset? What would you share with a dad? How do you define it?
Well, the first thing is just look at the word. Let's break it down. It's actually 2 different words: mind and set. It is how your mind is actually set. And the setting of the mind is based in conditioning, the same way that the setting of our physical fitness or our health is based in how we are conditioning ourselves, which means is what we're doing on a consistent basis and what we've been doing over the last, fill in the blank, your age, X number of years. That's what has set our minds. And the reason why this matters so much, and this distinction needs to be pointed out, Jeff, is because many people, when they want to change their mentality, they start trying to do surface level things, such as let me go watch a YouTube video that gets me excited, or let me listen to a podcast episode that gets me hyped up, or let me go read something that Jeff wrote that's going to get me in the right mental state. It's not that those things are not useful, right? Because I create that material too, but it's what are you doing on a consistent basis that matters more than what you do one time randomly, because it's how your mind is set, and how your mind is set is based on your subconscious programming, not your conscious stream of thought. So people who are listening to you and I talk right now, Jeff, are consciously processing what they're hearing.
Right.
But what they're consciously processing is not going to change your life, much less not even change your behaviors for the most part, more than not even close to as much as what your subconscious mind is programmed to do is going to affect your behavior, which means this explains why many people can take in a bunch of information that they know is right and it excites them and they say, this is the right thing, I'm going to go do this. For example, maybe the high that you feel when you go to a conference or a seminar or you read a book, but then you get home and 3 weeks later, you're right back to the same old habits that you knew you were supposed to stop doing. All right, that's because your subconscious mind is controlling you, not your conscious mind. Even though your conscious mind says do A, subconscious mind says do B, you end up doing B. So you need to change the subconscious programming. The way you do that is through a consistent process of giving your mind the type of material that it needs to be given, and then creating a structure that will help create the type of habits that you need to change your behaviors. Changing behaviors leads to a change in outcomes, which is what most people want.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I love how you broke that word mindset into two, right? Mind and set. And it is that way. And I think that's such a challenge or a trap that so many dads fall into is they'll go to a retreat with a bunch of guys and they get all fired up, and then they come back and they do it 1 or 2 days, and then it goes back to, the pattern that they've been doing for maybe 5, 10, 20 years, perhaps. So if I'm a dad listening, okay, Dre, that makes sense. Like, I get it. And you said consistently, what do you recommend? Where's a great place for them to take action and start to reprogram that subconscious mind?
Structure. So the most important aspect so when I broke down the mindset piece, I told you discipline, confidence, mental toughness, personal initiative, and they go in that order. So discipline is the most important aspect of it. And you ask, if you were to stop 100 people on the street, Jeff, I don't know if you or anyone in your audience ever sees on social media people doing those street interview posts.
Yep,
where they just walk up to a random person and ask them questions. So if you walk up to 100 random people and ask them, hey, is there any aspect of your life in which you want or need more discipline? Everybody would say yes. Right? Everybody wants to be more disciplined at something. Now, the challenge is not if people want discipline or if people understand the value of it. The question is, how do you get it? Because everybody wants it, because many people come up short trying to acquire it. And the answer is structure creates discipline.
Okay.
When you have the proper structure in place, then discipline comes out as a byproduct. With
Dre, you back yet? All right, you're back.
All right. Yeah,
All
I waited
right.
for a few minutes and I just left and came back in.
Yep,
Just-
no problem. So I'll cut it. So structure creates discipline. Explain that a little bit more. We'll dive into that.
Sure. So the structure creating discipline is the bridge between the discipline that people want and them actually having it. Because when you follow a structure, then discipline kind of comes out of the bottom of the funnel, metaphorically speaking. And this is what many of us as dads, we do at home. We provide the structure, right? Where in traditional sense, the dad is providing more of the, what do we say? We'll call it the authority or enforcing rules at home. Now, sometimes the moms do that. My mom was much more the enforcer of the rules than my dad was. But in a traditional sense, dad is providing some form of structure. This is what happens in sports. When you have coaches, the coaches provide a structure. The players follow the structure. You get an outcome from it. This happens in school. It happens at jobs. It happens if you hire a personal trainer. It happens if you hire an actual coach or a consultant. They provide a certain amount of structure. As long as everyone follows the structure and respects the person who is administering the structure, then discipline comes out of it, because just by following a structure, you are building habits. Those habits create discipline. Discipline creates the performance and actions and the outcomes. So that's how structure produces that outcome. So if someone was to do something like, let's say, go to an event, go to a retreat, read a book, those are all great things, but they are mostly used as entry points, right? We use those things to get people's get their attention, let them know that we have something that they could use. But then on the back end, we want to let them know, okay, this is going to wear off in 2 weeks. How about you get into our structure, which we don't call it that, but we'll call it our coaching program or our mastermind or whatever we call it. Get into that thing in which we provide the structure. By following the structure, you get the disciplines that lead to the outcomes that you want.
Gotcha. Yeah, structure is such a key component of our lives. And I see many times that, like, I don't need structure, I'm good. And they're not really good, right? Or they fight it initially, the structure, and then all of a sudden the light bulb goes off and they're like, I actually, like, they almost fight the authority of, like, man, I don't, not many people like being told what to do. But if you're not getting the results that you truly want, you're not reaching that next level, man, structure is a great place to start. So what are one or two things dads could implement from a structure perspective that would make them start that path towards being more disciplined?
Well, it depends on what the discipline is that they want. Can you give me an example?
Let's just say that they want to be more intentional with their kids, right? They want a deeper connection with their kids.
Great. I had a client of mine in the exact situation. So he was making great money. We're talking mid to upper six figures a year. And he was on track to make even more. He said, Dre, I don't need your help making money, but I need help with all the other disciplines in my life because I'm sacrificing everything to make the money. Gotcha. So he wasn't spending as much time with his kids or his spouse. Mm-hmm. So one of the structures, very simple thing we did was implement on his calendar that every quarter he needed to take an entire day to spend it with one of his young children, because he hadn't been spending that time and he wanted to make sure that he did before that child got old enough. You told me you have a couple kids who are in their teens. Yep. He had a kid who was a couple years older than yours are. And that kid was on his way to college. He said, well, I got another kid who's about half his age. I want to make sure I don't fumble the time I spend with him before he's at that age and I haven't spent any time with him. So we just put a structure in place to make sure that he was spending that time with that kid. So that the discipline of spending time with that child was just on his calendar and in place. And that sounds so simple and so trite. But the fact of the matter is many of us never come around to actually doing it and holding ourselves accountable to it until we put ourselves into some form of structure ourselves so that we can start putting structure in place. Because remember, human beings are creatures of habit. We tend to keep doing the same stuff that we've been doing unless we face an emergency situation. So it's often either something has to slap us in the face that wakes us up, or we have to at some point come to the conclusion, okay, if I keep doing things this way, we can see that the emergency is coming. So we kind of do something before we get to the edge of the waterfall, so to speak.
Yeah. And I love just putting it on the calendar, right? I mean,
Mhm.
scheduling it out when it's on the calendar, it's amazing. It happens, right? So dads listening, if there's something you procrastinate on, I mean, Dre just gave a great tip there. Put this into action, right? I had a dad recently said, hey, knowledge is power. And I was like, no, knowledge is not power. Action is power. We've got knowledge. Everybody's got all the knowledge. You can get it on your phone, YouTube, everything, but there's just a lack of action. So dads listening, put it on the calendar when it's scheduled. It happens, right? So I love that piece. What around, I know you mentioned discipline. The other word you mentioned was consistency. And what does consistency mean to you? How do you dial in consistency personally or with your clients that, a dad might be able to glean some nuggets from?
Yeah, well, consistency is I'm going to use the word in definition. It's putting out the same outcomes over an extended period of time with very little variance. That's the definition of the word consistency. So discipline produces consistency, because when you're a disciplined person and you're doing the same things the same way every time, was a phrase we use a lot around here, that produces consistency. So what we need to do is make sure we plug into a structure that can produce the type of disciplines that lead to the consistent results that we want. And once we find that, we now have what they call a formula or a recipe or a process. And then you just keep following that, or some people call it a system. You keep following that and you keep getting the same results. So hopefully you find a result that you like, that you want, and you can do it over and over and over again. And it becomes just part of your brand, because that's what people come to know you for. So this is what companies like Amazon and McDonald's and What was the last thing you heard?
Amazon, McDonald's.
Okay. Keep it going from there?
Yep, that works.
Okay. So you take a company like Amazon, McDonald's, Starbucks. If you go to their locations, so say McDonald's and Starbucks, they're anywhere in the country, the results are going to be the same, even though the locations are different, because they've created such a process that they produce consistent outcomes. So that's what consistency is all about. And that's how it's created. I don't remember exactly what your question was.
Gotcha. No, it was just around consistency. Obviously, discipline leads to consistency. I think so many times, especially that, like, you hear consistency and it's like an unsexy word, right? Like, right. I mean, it's not, but I like to say it's a force multiplier, right? Like you're consistent. The start stop that so many dads fall into, man, it's an exhausting process. You mentioned habits before drive so much of what we do. Dive into habits a little bit, and how much they drive what we do on a daily basis.
Sure. So all these things we're talking about here, structure, discipline, consistency, habits, they're like different numbers on the same die, right? So they all help each other. They all support each other. So habits are basically the personal version of structure and discipline. So like the human version. So anything that you do over and over and over again, we call maybe a discipline. Those get ingrained into us as habits. And human beings, we are creatures of habit, which means habits are good things. And discipline is a good thing for a human, because our subconscious mind, again, is much more powerful than our conscious mind. And it takes over things that it recognizes that we're doing over and over again, and they get ingrained as habits to where we don't have to constantly think about what we're doing, but we do it anyway. So this is in the language that we use, maybe some verbal tics that we all have, the way we hold our physical bodies, our physical posture, the way we talk, the way we tie our shoes in the morning. Anybody who has shoes with laces on them today, you tied them and you probably didn't think about how you were doing it. Or you didn't think about how you brushed your teeth this morning, but you did it because you've done it so many times that the subconscious mind says, okay, I'll take this task off of your hands, conscious mind, and I'll do it for you so you don't have to think about it anymore. That's what habits are about. And nobody should try to not have habits, because if you didn't have habits and you had to constantly think about every single thing you did, that would completely overwhelm your brain. It would overload the engine and your engine would combust if you had to think about every single thing that you did, because we do too many things. The challenge is not to not have habits. The challenge is just to choose the right habits, the ones that are working for us, and get rid of or edit the ones that are not serving us. And the metaphor that I use, I talk about this in my book that is actually titled Work on Your Game, is that we got to treat our habits like employees. Okay. And every day, Jeff, is employee review day. Not once a quarter, not once a year, every day. Every day you're looking at your habits and asking yourself, is this habit serving me or not? If the habit is, then it gets to keep its job. If the habit is not, then it gets fired, or it goes into a review process to where, okay, we're going to give you the fixes for your behavior, and you're on a probationary period for the next 90 days or 20 days or 24 hours, whatever it's going to be, to get this fixed. And if it doesn't get fixed, then it has to get shipped out and replaced with something else.
No, I love that line. Habits are like employees, right? And I would say, hey, good habits, obviously they set you up for success, but if you're not looking at your habits and what you're doing on a daily basis, that's where one day becomes a week, a month, a year, and 10 years down the road, and you're still stuck in that same routine, same spot, and you're kind of angry, frustrated, and disappointed. Hey, here's where I'm at. I have good intentions, but if you're not looking at your habits, it's definitely a difficult process to unwind. So, hey, dad's struggling mindset wise, man. He can't get out of his own rut. He's got bad habits. Like, what's one or two things that they could do throughout their day to help them start to fight that battle and win that battle in their mind? What's one or two small, simple, easy, almost laughable, actionable strategies that they can put in place?
Very easy. First thing is write down the top 3 habits that are the non-serving habits that they want to get rid of. So the first step in, because remember that most of what we do, most of what we say and think and do are unconscious and habitual. So the first step is we got to take the unconscious things and we have to get conscious about them. We have to become aware of them, because if you're not aware of them, you can't change them. So first thing is just write down what are 3 bad habits that you have that you know you want to get rid of, but you haven't been able to. So just becoming aware of them and just writing them down, just identifying like this is the habit is the first step. That's one thing. And the other thing is, what are 3 habits that you would like to introduce and ingrain into your life that you don't have right now? And again, just getting conscious of them and making yourself more aware by literally writing them down makes it a much more serious process than you just holding it in your head. So anybody can start with those 2 activities.
No, I love the process of writing them down, right? That's just such a basic, but so many times forgotten process, right? Dad's got, hey, man, I know I should break this habit, but they just keep it in their head. Or, hey, I know I want to build this new thing. Maybe it's exercising, meditate, whatever it is. They think about it, but they don't write it down. There is so much power to that. And Dre, I love how you said writing down those 3 bad habits and the 3 good habits that you want to build creates an awareness. Awareness is the first step in change. If you're not aware, you can't make any change about it. And all of a sudden the light bulb goes off when you have that awareness, and then you can take actions to move forward. So I love that piece to it. What else as we wrap up the episode? Anything else you've got from a mindset perspective that, hey, just pops in as you're, a new dad that can help dads in their mindset battle?
Yeah, just understanding the hierarchy and the process of how things work. So as we talked about, structure leads to the discipline. Discipline produces confidence, because confidence is just your belief in your ability to do something. And to protect that confidence, you need the mental toughness. That's basically like the security guard for your overall mental condition, human condition, your mental health. And once you have the confidence, then you get out there and you perform. The performance leads to results, because we are in a results-based business called life. And when you produce results consistently, you get all the rewards that you want. You can actually start dictating and naming the rewards you want when you develop a reputation through your habits of producing results. That's what Work on Your Game is all about.
No, I love that. I appreciate you. Appreciate you sharing, Dre. Where can people find you? Where can they look you up?
You can find me at workonyourgameuniversity.com. That's where our focus is right now. That's where we do all of our coaching, consulting, programming, programs, courses, etc. So it's just workonyourgameuniversity.com. And also I'm on every social media platform. Profiles are public everywhere, so I'm pretty easy to find.
Awesome. Dre, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me on, Jeff. Thanks for sharing your platform.
You got it. Dare to be uncommon, love, lead, legacy, create a legendary day. I'll talk to you soon.